Hello, in this video I am going to give you a little introduction onto the Bootstrap 5 grid system. So first of all, let me take you to the Bootstrap 5 documentation website. There's some great information on there. We're going to cover it, but it's also good to actually have the other reference guide as well. So Bootstrap 5, I'll provide a link to this so you don't have to do all this googling. And get started. Okay, so if we go to layout, grid, and what we're interested in, we're going to be implementing this, but I'll explain what that is in a second. Actually, no, this is going to be for a separate video in terms of the sizes. But just to show you, there's 6 different sizes. There's extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, extra large. The sizes are right here in terms of when they are essentially triggered based on your browser's width. And the other thing to mention is if you have a certain size set for small, it'll get trickled all the way up till it hits another setting that overrides that. So it basically goes from a bottom up approach. And so it's basically a mobile first designed framework. Okay, so we have this, and this is what we're going to be implementing, but this is what I recommend that you take a look at. All Bootstrap websites, we can get rid of this because all Bootstrap websites in the body need to contain a container, which is a div that have a class called container. You will most likely only ever have one container on the page. It is technically possible to have more than one, but it is not recommended. Inside here, you will have rows. You can have multiple rows. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to have one, but you can have multiple. So row, as the name suggests, it is sort of a horizontal layout, though it can expand vertically as well depending on how many columns there are, which I'm going to cover in a second. But I'm going to cover in a separate video, like I said, multiple rows, and they're great for grouping similar types of content, so they are responsive together. Next in here, we're going to have another div, and this is going to have a class of column, and in here is where your data goes. So you have a container, more than one row potentially, or at least one, and then at least one or more columns. So you put col dash, then you're going to put sm, which is small, but again I'm going to cover all the grid sizes in a separate video, so just bear with me for this. -4, and I'll explain what that -4 means in a second. Column 4, column, I'll call this column 1, and I'm going to duplicate this so we have 3 of these. So 1, 2, 3. So if I go back, reload the web page, this is what we get. If I was to resize it, it still sticks to 3 different ones until I get to a point where it is too small and it's gone on to the extra small size, and now it's all on one single line. So if a particular size hasn't been specified, aka SM for small or XL for extra large, something like that, then the amount of columns it should occupy for that size, then what will happen is it will occupy 12. 12 is the full width of the container. The container does not expand from left to right fully. It is within a certain set of boundaries, which you can have a look on this website that will explain all of that good stuff for you. And yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know in terms of just the basics of the grid system. So this is the basic grid layout. You have a container, a row, and columns inside of it. So you generally don't have columns without a row. You don't have a row without a container. And yeah, this is basically the way it works. If you, like I said, if you don't specify one, it'll be default to 12, which is the max, as we haven't specified an extra small, and that is lower. Therefore, that hasn't been overridden by the larger size we specified of small. It gets 12, hence why when we resize it, they're all on individual. I don't want to say rows, let's say lines, because rows, they are a separate feature. But that's really it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to cover all the different grid sizes that you saw here, and yeah, so look forward to that, and I look forward to seeing you in that video. Hello, in this video I am going to cover all the different grid sizes. So we've already got a basic little grid system right here, and as a recap, remember in the container where all your pages where the content goes, you know what you're seeing, not necessarily the CSS and the JavaScript, etc. You need a row inside of it. You can have multiple rows. I'm gonna have a separate video covering that. And inside each row, you will have one or more columns which span X amount of spaces. There's a total amount of 12 spaces in each row, and you can have any number you want as long as it's not a decimal. Okie dokie, I'm actually gonna hide this just so we got a bit more room to play with. And first of all, I'm going to go to this website. I've got a link to this in the description. And this basically covers all the different sizes. So there's extra small. We covered SM previously, which is small. There's medium, large, extra large, and extra large. So these are the conditions. So if it's less than 576 pixels wide, and that is the browser width. So if the browser width is less than 576 pixels wide, then it will default to whatever that particular setting is in terms of the amount of spaces it should take in the column. If it's greater than 576, greater than or equal to 576 but less than 768, that's just automatically inferred by this. Actually, no, let me rephrase it. If it's greater than 576, then you'll be whatever small is. But if there's also a setting for medium, which is greater than 768, then this will get set when it goes above this range, even though it's technically above this range. So it trickles up. So this will trickle up all the way for these sizes, unless there's a specific size specified or specific, width specified for one of these, but they don't trickle down. So if I set large to span 6 columns, for example, but I'm looking for medium, small, and extra small, then by default it'll span 12 columns. So it doesn't go down, but it does go up. And here are, as you see, the different widths, and they go all the way up to extra large. If you come from an old Bootstrap framework, you might be used to only really having, I think, extra small, medium, and large. I don't think extra large was in there in the older version. It was in there in Bootstrap 4, but it depends on what version you've come from. So things have slightly changed. So the class prefix, so this is the one we use, col-sm, then dash, then the amount of columns or the amount of spaces we want each column to span. And for extra small, you don't specify -xs as you used to in Bootstrap 3. In 4 and 5, you don't need to do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. You just put col dash, then the number or whatever property you're trying to affect for extra small. So let's implement something. So what we're going to say is for extra large, it's going to span 1 column. And that was extra large. For extra large, span 2 columns. For, let's say, large, you'll span 3 columns. For medium, you'll span 4 columns. For small, you'll span 6 columns. And if we leave extra small, then it will span 12 columns. Even if you wanted to span 12 columns, I, as a habit, prefer to put col-12, just so when I'm looking at it, I just know what that size is. It's just, my preference, but this technically isn't required because this is the default, property. So likewise, this would not be required in this scenario. But if, let's say, you wanted large to be 12, you wouldn't need to specify it as 12 because medium is 4, and then that will get trickled up unless otherwise overridden. And there we go. So let's save that. And what we're going to do, I'm going to copy that, override this, and I'll have a few different instances of these. Let's copy that. Okay, I think that should probably get the job done. Yeah, this is just optional what I'm doing here, but it's just so we can easily see the way everything has reordered, because if they all just say the same thing, we don't know which one is which. my dog has started, or my sister's dog has started barking. Somebody's clearly at the door. She can handle that. And I'm gonna save that. Reload. There we go. We have 13 different columns. You may see on the 13th one, it's gone on to, don't say the next row, onto the next line, because multiple rows are, two different things. So the 13th one, remember, we can only have a total of 12, sections in, each row anyway. And if on extra large, each one of these spans 1, 12 of them equals 12 in total. So this has to go into the next line. But if I start resizing it, now we are in the extra large category where each column spans 2 of the spaces in the row. So that means there's only a maximum of 6 that can fit. And there we go, and there's some spacing on each side. It is even, it's just because this is justified to the left automatically inside each column. It looks like there's a little more here, but this actual column probably ends round about here, and this one ends round about here, etc. Okay, so it's not depending on the content that's inside it, but these properties that we've set. So let's go a little smaller. So we go to large, so there's only 4 of them now, so 4 times 3. If we go to medium, there'll only be 3 on a row. As you can see, it's automatically adjusting. If we go to small, there'll just be 2 on a row. Again, I don't say row, on a line. Again, sorry for that, I mean on a line. If we go really small, they're all on individual lines. So that is all the grid sizes. There's extra large, large, medium, small, and extra small. Highly recommend, if you're coming from a previous version of Bootstrap, go over this. One, you'll be able to go over it really quickly because you already have that sort of mindset about the grid system, about 12 spaces and all that stuff. But this has slightly changed, so recommend that you have a look at it. That's it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to cover single column widths. So this is when we have more than one column in a row, but we only specify the width of a single one of them. So let me show you what I mean. So if I just put, col like that, like that, and like that, and let me duplicate this, so there's 5 in total, but the number doesn't really matter because they'll work regardless. And let's say for this one I was to put -6. So if you remember from the all grid sizes video, if you don't specify -sm, -md, -lg, -xl, -xxl, it is just the extra small column which trickles all the way up, and it is 12 columns wide. But what happens when we put 6 for this one? What happens to all the others? Let's put column 4 for this. Let me refresh. As you can see, this is spanning 6 columns, or six spaces in the row, and there's a total of 12. That leaves a total of 6, and it's split it evenly across all the columns, 3 on either side, with each column taking up 1.5. So that's a great way of doing almost like decimals and making it symmetrical, even in a way, without you having to handle all of that. But what I'm going to do is create a bit of style and a bit of substance. And what I'm going to do is just implement some really basic style. I'm going to say dark green. So you're going to have a background color of green. This is just so we can see the actual columns at work. Because at the moment, it sort of looks like that this is just spanning maybe this amount, this is empty. That's not the case because there isn't that much text in there. So it doesn't fully demonstrate what we are doing. Okay, so this is gonna put any color you want. Blue, red, let's do yellow, let's do purple, not purple. Let's just put the corresponding color in the CSS attribute as well. And purple, not purple. And now let's actually just specify for each column. And you could have Now the same color for multiple columns. I'm just doing it different just so we can see visually where each column starts and where each column ends. So we load, so there we go. This is spanning 6, which is a total of half of it. So this plus this is the other half, so this is now 3 in total. This is 3. Each one of these columns, the yellow, the purple, the blue, and the green, are 1.5. So that is what happens when you specify it for a single column. Let's see what happens as an extra thing. Maybe we put it here instead, -6. As you can see, it's automatically adjusted it accordingly. It basically just evens it out for all the other columns. It don't have to be -6. Could be, you know, anything between -1. I guess if you put 12, it really won't do anything because you'll span the entire line. So I guess 1 to 11. But if it's 11, it doesn't really leave much room to play with if you've got more than one column. So you probably want to keep it relatively low, but feel free to experiment for your particular website. So as usual, experiment, you know, mess around with the code that we've got. All the code is on GitHub. There's a link in the description to it. Feel free, and I highly recommend that you go to the Bootstrap website to just experiment with the code on there, the examples on there. And, you know, in general, if you have questions, feel free to pop me a message, or, you know, the ways that you can contact me is available in the description. That is the best place pretty much for you outside of this video. So thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to take a look at variable width content. So we've got this little grid system right here with 5 sections totaling 12 columns, and these are just, you know, set to automatically just relative to this one because there's no number specified. Watch what happens. Let's say if in here I increase the text a bit. As you can see, it just basically goes down. The width is maintained. But what if we want this just to extend as the content extends as well? And for it to do its best to try and keep some sort of structure, you can do that really easily. You put call and then the actual breakpoint that you want. So it'll be dash nothing if it's extra small, SM if it's small, you know, medium for MD for medium, LG for large, XL for extra large, and XXL for extra large. Then you put dash auto. I'm going to put dash auto for all sizes, so this is just going to trickle up from extra small. If I reload this, watch what happens. As you can see, this has readjusted. So this is 6, and because both all these two, these two and these two, you know, adjust accordingly based on what this is, they are just sort of spreading out. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's just a really cool way of allowing you to automatically adjust the size. But just bear in mind, if you have too much content, like I'm going to put a lot of random content, it can sort of, again, it's still got some structure to it. It is still spreading stuff out accordingly, but just bear that in mind, that if you have too much content, it may not look and operate the way you want it. It's probably always best to restrict the amount of, let's say, text or content that any particular part of your website can display, you know, a minimum and a maximum, and therefore you can design your website accordingly. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. All the links to GitHub and how to contact me is in the description. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to take a look at offsetting columns. So if we have a look at what we've got so far, there's a total of 12 grid spaces, and this is 2, this is 2, this is 2, and then there's 6 left over. But maybe we want, let's say, a bit of a gap between these two. Maybe we want a space of, you know, grid space of 1 gap. And we can do that really simply. So maybe we want to move this across. So the one you want to move, so if you want a space between, you know, a space between this one and this one, you apply it to the one on the right because that's what you're moving, and anything else is moved accordingly because it is relative to what comes before it. And you can apply it to the first one, second one, third one, last one, doesn't really matter. Okay, so you just put offset. then you put dash, then the breakpoint name. Again, if you're doing targeting it for extra small, which will trickle up unless, you know, overridden, then you don't put extra small or anything. If it's for small, you put SM, MD for medium, large, LG for large, XL for extra large, extra large, and XXL for extra large. So, and then you would put dash and then the amount of grid spaces that you want to, you know, move it across. So I'm just going to put it like this, let's say 1 for now, between 1 and 12. And there you go. It's moved it along roughly half of the width of one of these. And it'd be exactly, if I put 2, it's got a whole width of one of them. And you can apply to as many as you want. So I could apply it, let's say, maybe if I applied it to this one, apply 1 here, and maybe I'll apply something like that as well. There you go. So this has moved over a bit, and then these have moved over a fair bit. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. And that is how you offset columns. Really great for, you know, reorganizing your content. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to cover, what are we going to cover? Reordering columns. So we've got this little basic system contain a row and then 3 columns inside, column 1, column 2, and column 3. If you come here, this is what our website looks so far. Maybe on a particular screen size, we actually want a different order. So let's say on the extra large screen size, we want this column to be first, and let's say the other 2 to be, you know, in the normal order of, you know, this one and this one. To do that, you put order dash, then the breakpoint. So if you put no breakpoint and you just put dash and a number, it targets extra small, which will trickle up unless overridden. SM is for small, MD is for medium, LG is for large, XL is for extra large, and XXL is for extra large. So let's say I'll put number here. So the lower the number, the, you know, the lower the order. So the first one that will, the lowest number will appear first. Before I do that, you know, nothing happens, because if there isn't anything specified here, these will have a higher order, essentially, you know, higher precedence. So you have to specify your order here as well. Order 2, order dash 3. If I save that, as you can see, this is first, and I realized I made a mistake because it's always going to be like that. And again, you might want that, but I was, you know, giving you the use case of extra large, so you just put XXL or whatever breakpoint it is, and I'm just going to copy that, make things a little faster. And now this will only be affected on extra large. So if I inspect the element, it's actually already gone all the way down. Go to bound. Okay, we're at just over 1400 pixels. 1400 pixels is the breakpoint between extra large and extra large. And if I start resizing it down, we're at 1400. Anything below that, it goes to the other reordering, which is, well, there's no other ordering applied, so you'll just be in the normal order. So that is how you reorder columns, really easy. You don't have to mess around with any JavaScript or jQuery or any dynamic language like that. Really cool, really simple. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to take a look at column breaks. So if we look at what we've got so far, we've got this website and we have 3 columns that each span 2 of the spaces in this particular row, or line I should say. But if, for example, we wanted to move, let's say, everything beyond this point onto another line, but still maintain it within this div, maybe this div has a particular ID or a particular class, especially if it's an ID and you want to be able to manipulate in a certain way, what you can do is use something called a column break. And it's simple. Just put an empty div where you want to move the content down by, and then you put a class. So this is a built-in class, so you've got to implement it properly, not like the way I was doing then. And just put w-100, and that's it. That's literally all you have to do. Go back, refresh. Everything after that particular point will be on a new line now. It's still within this particular row, so any styling, any sort of jQuery, JavaScript, maybe PHP or whatever will still be applicable. That's it. That's really all there is to column breaks. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. The code will be available on GitHub, which will be available in the description. The link will be. And so yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to take a look at column wrapping. So this isn't necessarily particular code that you implement on top of what you will already have in terms of containers, rows, columns, but if you remember, the grid system on each particular line has 12 spaces which adjust in size depending on whether you're on extra large, large, medium, small or extra small. But what happens, because we put a column of 2, col 2, this is the same if you specify a breakpoint like dash sm dash, whatever. The principle is the same. But what happens if we go over the 12 limit? So if I put 11 here, for example, so 2 plus 11 is 13. Therefore, this can't go on this line. So what would happen? This is what happens. This is 2. And there's a maximum of 12 on this particular line. So that means there's 10 left. This one is 11, so you can't fit on this line because it requires one more than that is available. On this line, there's only one left, one little grid space, on this line. And this requires 2, so this one also gets bumped down as well. But watch what happens if, let's say, I put this up to 4, and I'll put this 9. So it's still at 13. What happens is this is 4, this is 9, so this can't fit on the remaining 8 grid spaces. We get 9 here, but there's 3 grid spaces left, therefore this column 3, which has 2 grid spaces, can fit there. That's it. That's literally all there is to column wrapping. It's something that happens automatically, just something to bear in mind. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. The code from this and all the other videos will be on the GitHub page. There'll be a link to that in the description. There'll be ways to contact me as well, email, my learning website, Discord, all that stuff. So feel free to hit me up. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video, I am gonna show you vertical alignment in rows. So we have this little container here, which has these 3 columns. What I'm gonna do is, and this row as well, I'm gonna create some style for the row. You could do it on the row class. You could specify a different, particular class. And this is just so you can see what is happening. So here I'm going to put a background color of violet, and then I'm going to put a height of 500 pixels. So let's just see what happens just by doing that. So this is what happens. Columns fill the entire height. If you don't actually want to do that, what you want to do, put align dash items dash start, and that doesn't change anything currently, but what that does is just keeps the the height, the original amount that's relative to whatever content and whatever styling has been applied to these particular columns, which is very minimal at the moment. But what this allows me to do is if I put center now, it's aligned in the center. And if I put end, you can guess what happens. It aligns at the bottom. So that's the easy way of vertically aligning the column. So anything within this row is aligned accordingly. Okay, so there's actually another way of alignment as well. So if I was to copy and paste this, I'll put a little breakable line as well. So we got this right here, but instead of putting align items end there, we actually specify an alignment class on the actual column itself. So this is align dash self. Let's say if I put start, for example, I'll copy that, paste it here, and for this one and the next one, I'll put center, I'll put end. So what will happen now? So we are manually aligning each column. So we could do in any order we want. So we could have one here, one there, then another one there, another one there, maybe one up here, then one down here. This just means we don't have to align them all up, down, or center. We can align just one or two of them. So that's it. That's how you do vertical alignment. All this code will be provided in the GitHub source code repository. The link to that is in the description. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to take a look at horizontal alignment. So in the previous video I covered, horizontal alignment? Yes, horizontal alignment. In the previous video I covered vertical alignment, which allowed you to, organize stuff vertically, and it's great if you have obviously, a bigger, container, which this is a row, and you could organize something that's at the start, the center, and at the end. And there's a similar process for horizontal. This is applied on the entire row and not an individual column. So to do this, it's really simple. You put something like, not something like, but exactly like this, justify-content-start. Or reload, that's at the start, so right at the left. And if we center, the content, if I spell it correctly, will be in the center. So this is great if you have a content and you don't know what content's going to be in there. It could be dynamic, it could be loaded from a database. You might have more than one column, you could have multiple. This way, it's just always centered. And I think you can guess what's coming next is how to align it to the right, which is end. There you go. It's always aligned to the right. There's nothing more to horizontal alignment than that. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. There will be a link in the description to the source code plus a bunch of other links to stuff like, my website, to the Bootstrap website, just all cool stuff, and the Discord page as well if you want to message us. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to take a look at margin utilities. So this essentially allows us to provide some margin, so some spacing around the columns. So all you do is you apply it on a particular column, you do ml dash, and then you put an optional, this is optional, you can put a breakpoint. So XS for extra small, SM for small, MD for medium, LG for large, XL for extra large, XXL for extra large, and all the breakpoint sizes are available on the Bootstrap website. There's a link to that in the description. Plus, when I covered the grid system, I covered all those sizes as well. So you just put like the size here, or if you omit it, it goes to the extra small size and trickles up unless there's something else that overrides it. I'm just going to put auto. So let's see what happens when we do that. So this just applies some padding to the left, and it just automatically adjusts it 6, because this covers 6 and now it's 6 over there. What happens if we do ml-auto on here, for example? Now it applies an even amount of padding on both of these to the left. And what we're going to do next, and if we do here, we get this. But maybe we want them centered, so what we can do is basically get rid of this one. Get rid of this one. That's what we get. So that's it. That is how you use margin utilities. And let's see what happens if we do this. So we can also apply that sort of same system to the right as well. But this is looking pretty good. We save it, reload. We got some even margin in between all of the columns. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are gonna cover multiple rows. This will be a really quick, simple video. So we have this container here. There's always one container on your page, and then you can have multiple rows, and then inside there you can have multiple divs, where you have columns. So rows are great for organizing sections of data. So for example, if I go onto a website, I'm just trying to think of a website to just go onto, that's not social media related. Let's go into, I don't know, IGN. It comes to mind. Okay, so if we go here, this technically probably would be a nav bar, but like this could be a row. these icons, that could be a row, so they're organized. Then this could be another row in itself. And even though when we resize it, things will move around based on a grid-like system, this could be another row. So it's just a great way of organizing data. Okay, so what you do is just within the container, just put another div, apply a class of row, and you do whatever you want in it. If we refresh, we don't get anything because this row has no height because it has no content. We need styling applied to it to give it height. So if now we add a div, the dog is moaning downstairs, and if I apply a class of col-3, and let's say I'll apply red, I'll put row 2 column 1, I reload, this is what we get. So the row will start immediately after the previous row unless there is something like a break rule. Yep, I'll put still red. Or if there's some sort of margin applied maybe to this row or to this row, top or bottom to help spread it out. But that's it. In here you can have as many columns as you want. They will adhere to the same grid system. But also if you notice, this is 2, 4, 6, so this takes up a total of 6 column spaces, and there's 12 in any single line. Whereas this is 3, so this isn't continuing off from here. This goes on to a whole nother, not just line, a whole nother row. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. And as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video, I am gonna show you how to nest multiple rows and columns. Pretty simple. We have this single row and we have 3 columns in here. As it stands, they take up 6 of the spaces in the 12 grid space, so we can get 2 on any single line. But inside of any column, we can have another row. So what that allows us to do is, if I get rid of this, for example, and put a div, it's the same format as you normally would, class of row, then in here you can have what you would normally have in a row directly, which is columns. So let's put a class. What I want to put is col-xxl-3. You can put whatever combination you want, however many you want, whatever breakpoints you want, whatever number of grid space you want. That's totally up to you. But this I think demonstrates the the use case of this. And 12. I'll put literally the number 1 here. So this just means for the extra large screen size, it's going to take 3 of the 12 grid spaces within this row, within this column. This is go from medium up to extra large, not including because we've overridden it here. So medium, and large will take 6. And so this is extra small and small. They all take 12. So I'm going to duplicate this so we have, again, as many as we want, but I'm going to have 4. That should be enough to demonstrate what, the purpose of this is. So let me save this. So this is what we get, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are equally spaced out. You might be thinking, why is there not as much of a gap on the left? Again, it's just because of the text alignment as you would get with this. But if you was to put a colored border around these columns, which as an extra task I recommend you do, you can see they are all the same size. Obviously the way you align your text, center, right, left, that's totally up to you. Watch what happens if I reduce the screen size. It's gone now to large, which is applied by this medium breakpoint. Remember, it trickles up until it hits a breakpoint that will override for that particular breakpoint. So we've got medium and large, and if we go a little smaller, as you can see, it hit another breakpoint, but because it was for medium, which is still 6, but if I go any smaller than medium, it should be small now. Oh no, that's still medium. There we go. We are at small. Yeah, I forgot about extra large, not just. Yeah, I went from extra large to large when I was explaining it. That's why there was an extra breakpoint. And now it is at small, and we'll eventually be hitting extra small. So there we go. So that is what nesting rows and columns allows you to do. Really simple. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video I am gonna show you gutters. So what is a gutter in Bootstrap? It is basically the padding that's automatically applied. Here for example, as you can see, we've got this container. Let me just close this down so we've got a bit more real estate. Container, row, column, and then we got some text in there. We haven't specified that it should appear not flush with this. So there's automatic padding in there, and we can easily override that. So if we go onto the row, for example, and this will apply to every single column. If you just want it for the particular column, you just apply it to that, for example. And we just put G, then X for the x-axis, so horizontal gutters. And if I put -5, this is the biggest gutter size you can go. The horizontal gutters are the biggest they can go. And if I put it down to, let's say 3, it's a little smaller. Put it down to 1, it's almost the smallest, but you may notice that there's still a bit of a gap. If I put it down to 0, it's the smallest you can go. There's no gap now. The content is flush, and it will be flush on the right as well if there was enough content there. So we can also apply a gutter in the y-axis, and you generally should put overflow hidden. That is a recommendation. This should not change anything, but overall it is recommended for the best compatibility. If you want to do vertical gutters, you put G, then Y for up and down. And it's the same principle. 5 will give you the biggest gutter size, 0 will give you none. So let's show you 5. That's what that's like. And let's put a gap between them without putting break rules or any manual padding or margins. If I put 3, it's going to be a little smaller. And if you put 1, it's a little bit of a gap. And if I put 0, what happened? I think I pressed refresh. Command R. And there you go, there is no gap now. So that's pretty much what it is by default. If you wanted to apply the same gutter size vertically and horizontally, what you can do is actually just put G dash the gutter size again, 0 to 5. So if I put 0, that's what we get, which hasn't changed. If I put 5, we'll put the max gutter size vertically and horizontally. So that is it. That is how you change the gutters in Bootstrap. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. So one thing I wanted to mention, it's not really that important, but I want to mention it. I know this is a question that a lot of people ask, is about the automatic, sort of gap, the, margin, the padding, people use all, different terms for it, but basically they want the content flush. So gutters is really, really useful for that. But yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. All the links will be in the description, such as the GitHub link with all the source code, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video I am going to show you responsive containers. So up till now you've just been using this regular container, and what we can do is we can get rid of this, for example, and we can put div. You don't have to use all of these, but I just want to just demonstrate what they all do. And if you put a class of container dash sm, so small container, and then I'm just going to say 100% wide until small breakpoint. And we're going to have a total of 5 of these, and we'll change this one to MD for medium, then LG for large. Then this will be XL for extra large, XXL for extra large. Okay, so now if we refresh, we get these. They may look identical, but watch what happens if I start resizing. We're at the extra large, point. But as soon as we go past the extra large and we're into the extra large now, this one is no longer using the 100% width sort of, you know, style. So but what this basically, I mean, it begins using the 100% width style below it. So what this is now, it is basically what you would have with extra small, and this one is only valid in extra large and extra large. And as soon as I break out of that, this is only valid in extra large and large. So this will soon go to basically the extra small 100% width. Again, you know, there will be, you know, a small gutter here, which is some padding. I've got a separate video covering that, but it is 100% width now. This is, you know, the regular medium for extra large, large, and medium. As soon as it hits the small breakpoint, it will be essentially like extra small. And this is, you know, using this normal small sort of styling for extra large, large, and medium and small. But as soon as we go to extra small, it goes down. So that is it. That is how you use responsive containers. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Hello, in this video I am going to show you fluid containers. They're really simple. So at the moment we've got this container right here with a row. Doesn't matter what's in there, but it has a restriction in terms of the, you know, maximum width, and then, you know, it gets triggered by breakpoints, etc. And then we can obviously change those breakpoints by, you know, specifying code-LG-6 for example, or -MD for medium, XXL for extra large, I mean. You know, feel free to check out, you know, my previous video covering the grid system. But what you can do is make the container go all the way to the edge. To do that, you just put container-fluid. So instead of a container class, you use a container-fluid class, and now it goes to the edge. There is a bit of margin, which, you know, you can remove if you want to, but apart from that, it is all the way to the edge. So that is how you use a fluid container. Really simple. If you have any questions, feel free to pop me a message. There'll be a link in the description to the source code and any other useful links that you may need. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.